Mike Mercer's missing link is a it's kind of an interesting pattern in that I've also tied this on curved light wire hooks. I haven't noticed the difference on a dry fly straight shank hook or a curved hook. I think personally, whichever one you think looks better, I'm tying it the way Mike did it, so it's going to be on a straight hook. If you want to try it both ways, which I did, it may work. Interesting fly. You got an elk wing, dun hackle, in either Antron or Zelon. They're called legs, not wings, and they're as long as that. And then a body of tying thread with a rib of crystal flash, just a single crystal flash rib, and a dubbed body here. Since you guys are tying, then a dubbed body. He claims ice dubbing. I happen to have some Spirit River Peacock, which is very similar to an ice dubbing, and it works just as well. So what I'm saying is, don't get hung up on all the exact components of the recipe, because this is an attractor fly. It's not an exact imitator. So we'll get started with the thread. The body is all thread, so what I do is start my thread, then I take my crystal flash, tie it on, and run my thread all the way back along the top of the crystal flash. Now the interesting thing about this body, and this is why I started using the curved hook, because he has you bring this thing down around the bend of the hook slightly. So you get it about 4 or 5 turns down the bend. And to keep the ridges off. By the way, I had somebody tell me, George, that you could not flatten uni-thread.
Oh.
He says, "Oh, you can't use uni-thread." I says, "No, you can flatten uni-thread." He says, "No, you can't." And I says, "Would you like me to show you how to flatten uni-thread?" "Well, you can't because it's bonded." I says, "Would you like me to show you how to flatten uni-thread?" Since he never tried to flatten it, he figured you couldn't do it. But uni-thread will flatten as anything else will. Then the rib. Now I did not bring any head cement because I have fished it. He claims Softex, and Softex would be nice. John Rozanich would be very glad to see you using Softex on it, but any head cement would work. But at the same time, I have fished it without it, and it really doesn't tear the fly up that bad. I would say coating the body with head cement or Softex probably gets you another 4 or 5 fish. That's about it. It's not that much of a difference. Okay? So then we do a little dubbed body, and then which is the thorax, and it's not too full and not too large, because what it's really doing is helping separate the what was called the legs. It looks like wings, but it's actually legs. And what I like to do with material like this is get it started and come down below. And create a thorax. I think I got enough on there. Don't get too big with this thorax because it doesn't need to be. And I'm using a dun Zelon. You can use Zelon or you can use Antron yarn if you have it, but not too thick. I'm going to take a whole strand of the Zelon right here, but I'm going to just use half of it. Be that way, Zelon. I don't care. Alright. And then I'm going to tie the Zelon in and butt it right up against the thorax, off to the side and slightly down, and bring the other one over and do the same thing. So what your thorax is really doing is creating the legs off down into the side. You can cut it first or second. I like cutting it first. Other folks like to do it afterwards. I don't think it makes a difference. I think it's your preference. Tying in the hackle. The reason you want to tie the hackle in is it's going to have to be underneath. It's underneath the deer. I mean the elk hair. So it needs to be tied in, and then we'll do the elk again. I've done this more than once where I forgot to tie. You could probably figure out a way to tie it in afterwards, because it gets a lot more difficult to tie the tackle in after the elk's been tied in. You could, but I find it more difficult. Okay, I want a bundle that's actually slightly less than the gape of the hook. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see it? You got a good photo there? I can't see the photo. So just slightly less than the gape of the hook. Same thing as before. We're going to measure that to the length of the body. Okay, stand it up. This is where the fun part gets. Now we're going to stand up all the hair. And we're going to post the hair, all the hair. Then you simply parachute it. Now there's a couple of ways of parachuting. We've all seen this method, doing it while it's on top. Came across this from Klinkheimer in a magazine in which he parachutes that way. And then we'll finish on the post. Bring it back up. Last but not least, the butt ends are all pulled forward because they'll make that head that you saw in that photograph. There we go. Now you want a little bit of a head because the head's going to help maintain. The flare of the head helps maintain the hackle and prevents it from sliding upward. Even though I wrapped each turn underneath each other, it can slip upward. And if you got an errant one, you can just pull him out. But there you go. Preen it up a little bit. And if you're going to fish it, you can dope up the wing. You don't need to dope anything else up. It's meant to sit low in the film. What I would do at home is I would then coat my hair with CDC oil and never mess with it again. I don't have to dope it up a second time, just dry it out. So that's the Mercer's Missing link. Again, it can be tied any size and any color based upon what you're attempting to do. He does it with a caramel thread, which is his original pattern. You could also do it with green or light tan. I mean, look at the caddis. What are you looking at for caddis? And that's what you're looking for a body. Nice thin body, it floats low, and just sets really nice and low on the water. Great. I find that a fun fly to fish. And easy to see. Look at that wing. That thing just sits up there. You see it just as well as an elk hair caddis floating over there, yet it's lower in the water compared to an elk hair caddis. So great visibility, casts well, floats well, not hard to tie.
Did you tie that on a 102Y? That's what.
No. This is on a 100.
That's a
This is
100.
he has it tied on a standard dry fly.
The cripples, the other.
Right.
Okay.
The other fly is on the Y hook. But this is a standard dry fly hook, any brand you like. I just grabbed it off of his stuff, which is the pattern and everything is from Mike. This is the way he did it. So I figured I'd go with the original, and then if you want to change it, great. You could, right now he just likes the thread body, so it sinks low and literally sits on the hackle. It's floating on the hackle, and the hook in itself is actually slightly submerged. So it's probably, I would have to guess, sitting in the water, probably at that angle.
What sizes do you usually tie them?
He recommends as big as a 12, which is what I tied here, and you go down to an 18. Remember, proportions change if you go into an 18. That's why it says gauge the amount of hair. You don't want it too thick, then it's just hard to cast, but you want enough to help with the floatability. So I always found that if my hair is slightly less than the gape of the hook on a dry fly hook, it doesn't. Now I can shift to an emerger hook, dry fly emerger hook. Having tied this, I've got the proportions better set in my head for both the hair and the legs for cutting them. So just something that takes a little time to get used to. But I like to fly. I've fished it a lot and done very, very well with it.